What's up, everybody? King Triple C here, the Olympic champion, flyweight champion, the bantamweight champion of the world. And I got a public service announcement to all you wannabe MMA casuals or MMA fans for that reason. You guys make sure to listen to my boy Story of the Fight with Will and Miro. You know why? Because Triple C said so. And if you don't, you can do me a favor and you can bend the knee to King Triple C 2.
But dude, how was? Oh man, that was gnarly. How was your Halloween?
It was cool, dude. It was pretty mellow. You know.
Yeah.
We went over to one of Katie's roommates from college. Her boyfriend has a place in Aromas, so we just went over there. And just kind of like they made tacos. They had like pork butt in a crock pot for since the morning, you know, so it was all ready to go.
Yeah.
And then put candy out and stuff. Maybe 5 trick-or-treaters came by.
Nice. 5 trick-or-treaters. All the candy to them.
Yeah, pretty much. At the end.
Nice night for those 5.
At the end, he was just dumping the actual bin into their bag.
Yeah, because you don't want to have any left over.
Yeah.
You know? If you have candy left over, then Halloween was a failure. Exactly. So even if you have to dump it all out for that last kid, you're good.
Yeah, exactly. What'd you
for
do?
Me,
you
with the kids, of course.
Just like last year, huh? Nothing changed?
Why would it change?
Yeah.
I live in Texas, bro. Coronavirus doesn't exist over here. No, we went to the exact same spot we've gone to for the last few years. There's this little subdivision called Hometown over here. They closed the streets off specifically for Halloween. Nice. So many of the houses there participate. They go all out, man. So the kids absolutely love it.
Yeah.
You know, so I was meeting up with my boys, Josh and Jalo, to catch either the end of the UFC fights or the beginning of the boxing fights on ESPN, the boxing matches. Mm-hmm. And we started trick-or-treating, I want to say, at 6:15-ish. Mm-hmm. And it's 8:15. I need to meet up with my boys at 8:30. And I look at my wife, and I'm like, Mindy, we should get going soon. She's like, well, the kids are still having fun. We've walked over 2 miles at this point, trick-or-treating. And it got to the point where I was like, hey, I recognize that exact same house. I recognize that exact same decoration. I recognize that corner lot. We're going the exact same way. And she's like, the kids are having fun. And I'm just like, oh, my God, okay. So my ass had to hop on an Uber to go to BJ's restaurant. Yeah, because my wife kept my car with the kids over there.
Yeah.
Met up with Josh and Jalo. And it was a very unproductive fight night because we started talking about shoes. You know how I'm about shoes, Will. Then we started talking about the Cowboys. You know how I am about the Cowboys, Will. Then we started talking about investing, Kanye West and Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And we went down this giant rabbit hole. And at the end, we're like, oh, shit, did Gervonta Davis already fight? And we were like, oh, he fought.
Yeah.
It's over. Dude, we didn't even notice it. So it was a good night.
And it was on?
Yeah.
It was on in front of you?
Well,
the fight happened in front of you?
BJ's.
Yeah.
We asked them to put the fights on. They're like, no, this is a family establishment. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, they told Josh this is a family establishment. We don't show that stuff here. So
isn't it
never going back to BJ's again for yeah. BJ's Brew House.
Yeah.
Not going back to BJ's again for fights.
Yeah.
Their wings aren't that bad. But not for fights.
You know what I'll do? And this is going to sound weird, but don't knock it. They have
what?
You know how restaurants will have their lean alternatives for certain meats and stuff?
Yeah.
So I'll get a bacon cheeseburger from there, but I'll swap the patty for bison meat.
That's not bad, yeah.
I like bison, right? And then you order that's not it. That's the cool part. That's normal.
There's more.
Yeah, then you get their fried calamari appetizer.
Love it.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that. I was super close to that last night, yeah.
Yeah. But then top bun comes off, throw some rings on the burger, close it up. A bison bacon burger with calamari in it. dude.
Wow. That's next level.
Yeah, it's good, dude.
That's
Good.
next level. Yeah, you know what? Next time I go, Josh, Jalo, we're going to have to try the bison burger with calamari in it. Holy smokes. But, dude, then after that, so got home super late, and I just watched the fights this morning. Literally just finished the Silva Hall fight, I want to say 10 minutes ago.
Okay.
So it's all fresh in my mind.
When you texted
all
me,
fresh in my
are
mind.
you cool to record in 20 minutes? Were you watching him when you texted me that?
Yes. Yes,
Yeah.
I was. And I was just
Nice.
thinking ahead, sir. Thinking ahead.
So which ones did you need to rewatch? Because you watched a couple, right? Or no? Did you watch when we were talking about the fights earlier? Were you not? You weren't watching them. You were just looking.
I
at the results?
watched all the way up to the Hernandez fight, and then that's when Mindy was like,
Gotcha.
"We gotta go trick or treating." Oh my God, the night's almost over, and it's like 6. I'm like, "No, but it's okay. Let's go." And
Yeah.
I got in trouble because while we're walking, right, just doing my thing. That's how I walk when I'm trick or treating.
Yeah.
And we're going down the street, and I'm like, "Oh snap!" She's like, "Dude, are you watching the fights?" And I'm like, "No, I'm listening to the fights," because I had my AirPods on. And she's like, "Take that shit off," and I was like, "Okay." So I took them off, and that's where I left off. I was listening to the Bobby Greene fight.
Mm-hmm.
And when they're like, "Oh, he's got him in a heel hook, reverse heel hook," and I'm like, "Oh shit!" And she's like,
was
"What
crazy.
are you doing?" Yeah, but so let's start off with the Yanez versus Rodriguez fight.
Yeah. Yanez. That guy is. He's someone to look forward to. Obviously, still super young, super fresh. It's one of those ones where it's like we don't really know if he's going to be full on UFC caliber yet. You know.
He looked good though.
He looks good. All signs point to
looked good.
yes so far. Hasn't been tested yet, but yeah, he looks good. His combos are really nice. His striking IQ. It's not like he has a ton of like different attacks, you know. But
His boxing.
Yeah, but his decision on like he has maybe like 3 or 4 strikes that he throws over and over and over again. He mixes them up just enough to keep you kind of guessing, but then also his timing and his like decision making on what to throw is perfect. Like when the uppercut's there, he lands the uppercut. He really likes the right left. But his timing on it is what is like a little bit off. So like it's not just like he's coming forward swinging and you can just block whatever's coming. You know, his timing's really nice.
I loved his straight right. It kept on finding a home really often, so quick, right down the middle. And first with Rodriguez, like I know that he's probably not an extremely high caliber fighter, but there's times where you see somebody like a Yanez, right, that's coming up and you're like, okay, well he should beat Rodriguez, and it doesn't happen.
And it doesn't happen. The
Right?
Aaron Pico effect.
So for Yanez to come in here and do what he did, right, and finish it in such fashion, I think still says a lot about Yanez. And hey, Rodriguez though, Mexican fighting out of Alaska. Dude,
Yeah.
we got Mexicans in Alaska, bro. I was so excited to see that.
Alaska's like negative. It's like negative Mexico.
So, negative Mexico. What?
It's like the opposite.
But yeah, but I was excited to see that, and then that finish was nasty, man. That shin
Yeah.
right to the head, and
Man, Rodriguez just walked right
people
into
are
it.
giving shit. People are giving Rodriguez shit for putting his hands down, walking away from Yanez straight into the kick. But if you take a look at the shots right before that,
Yeah, he
Rodriguez
was-
had to have been stunned.
He was stunned and he set him up for the kick. It's not like he walked into the kick 100%. Like when I say he walked into the kick, I mean just physically he was moving right into it.
Literally,
But
walked
it's-
right into the shit.
Yeah, but it's not like he was throwing the kick and then he's like, I'm gonna go this way. It's because Yanez set the trap for him to go that way, which sets up the high kick. So anybody who says, "What an idiot, he walked right into it," like you would have done the same thing. You know what I mean? Like, who are you to say that? Oh, he should have moved this way. Like, fuck off, dude.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is like, dude, let's at least have your guard up somewhat. You know what I mean? Like, protect yourself at all times.
Yeah.
But again, I feel like he was somewhat stunned before that from the shots that he was eating right before that.
Well, plus
he
it-
probably wasn't thinking clearly.
Plus, he hadn't thrown a high kick the whole fight, so he just hadn't seen that. He hadn't gotten that look yet, so he might have just thought he was out of range. You know.
Possibly. Yeah, out of range of the right or
clearly
the left.
Concussed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
it was a punching fight the whole time. So he's like, I'm out of punching range. I'll escape. High kick. You know?
A nice story for Yanez, too, when you take a look at, you know,
Yeah,
his dad brought him up in boxing. Thought that he wanted to be, that he was going to be a boxer growing up. His dad always felt that he had something in him, you know, and that he was going to be something special. Passes away from cancer 2016 and wins his contract from the Contender Series. Has that emotional interview, right, with my girl Laura Sanko.
Yeah.
And takes the contract to his dad's grave. Dude, that's deep, man. We've seen some father-son stories here these last couple weeks that have been getting me right in the feels. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That was probably the 10th time I've heard that story since last night.
Yes.
They told it like 4 times within the same like 10 minutes.
And when you count back from the Contender Series, that must be the 20th time you've heard it. So we can move on, man.
But yeah, definitely
Hernandez,
something to look forward to though with Yanez.
No, for sure.
To see him continue. That division's so stacked, dude. Super stacked.
It is. It's a fun division.
Yeah.
Up next, Hernandez versus the Geico Caveman is what I put down here. So, also known as Gruetzemacher. But when I saw the tail of the tape, I was like, dude, I'm pretty sure that's the guy that played the Geico Caveman.
Yeah.
And they didn't have to put any makeup on the guy. Like, that's just how he looks. Jesus.
Yeah, man. He has like the perfect
Gruetzemacher
name.
came out with those. He does. He came out with those 3 leg kicks. So I counted it. I went back. I was like, dude, how many leg kicks was that? 3 leg kicks in 8 seconds.
Damn.
So he came out really attacking those legs.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, Gruetzemacher, I see you. I see you coming out with a little aggression.
He's a grinding, just like continue the pressure. Like that's once he was struggling for a while, and then he established that kind of style, and it's like, oh, that's his style. That's what he should be doing. You know.
Yeah, and dude, I think the story for this one was just Hernandez and his speed.
Yeah, man, Hernandez. We've seen like glimpses of greatness from Hernandez. He got a little too high on his own supply, I think, when he fought Cowboy. And the Drew Dober fight was, I mean, Drew Dober's super legit. I think people are starting to realize how good Drew Dober really is now. But it was cool seeing him get a win here because that guy, he has so much potential just with his skill set and his athleticism. I think it's like all here, you know.
Yep, and so that's one of the things I did want to call out too, right? So Hernandez comes out from the LFA to knock out Beneil Dariush.
Yeah.
That was his first fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
Then he beats Olivier Mercier.
Yeah, who I was always pretty high on. He was like a very good testing guy.
Yep. Gets TKO'd by Cerrone in one of the nicest combos.
In one of
He's always in those highlights.
in one of the most satisfying beatdowns I've ever seen, to be honest. Because Hernandez was talking so much shit about, oh, I'm going to retire this old man. He's done all this stuff. And Cowboy's just like, let me show you something real quick. It was so satisfying.
Yeah. And like I said, he's always in highlights now, but it's on the receiving end, unfortunately for him.
Yeah.
Then he beats Francisco Trinaldo, which I've always enjoyed Francisco Trinaldo. Tough fighter, UFC
Gritty
veteran.
guy. Yeah.
Gritty guy. Then he gets TKO'd by Drew Dober. Mm-hmm. Right? So now he beats the Geico Caveman.
Yeah.
And I feel like this was a get-right fight for him.
It was a get-right fight for him. It's also a let's test this new camp you're in fight for him. Because he left his training camp that he's had his whole life. He moved states. So I think it's one of those
out of the
things
great state of Texas.
Yeah, into the even better one in Colorado. And
get out of here.
But yeah, I mean, I think this is the type of fight that you want to kind of take when you make a significant change like that. And so far, it looks like it really did the right things. I don't know what exactly they're working on, but like I said, the skill set has always been there. It's not like they need to teach him any new skills, to be honest. It's just mental, staying disciplined while you're fighting. Because I think when you have that kind of skill set, you kind of just like think you can like lax yourself a little bit, but not in the UFC, you know. Yeah,
and he came out looking more loose this time. So you were talking about how a lot of it might be mental. He came out to Fleetwood Mac, which you know how I take these things very seriously. Well, when it comes to their walkout music, if this would have been, let's say, 3 months ago, he came out with that 4 months ago, you know what? Not bad. Right now, it's top of the charts thanks to TikTok. I'm like, I don't know about that walkout song decision.
Even 4 months ago, fuck that song. Honestly, fuck Fleetwood Mac.
Dude,
They got two
savage.
good songs. They got two good songs.
Coming out hard
Any song,
at Fleetwood Mac.
any song that Stevie Nicks is singing, throw it right in the trash.
Throw it right in the trash. You know what? Let's move on then, Will. Okay,
Wait, real quick, the combo.
What's
the
up?
combo he was landing on the cage, beautiful.
Oh,
Beautiful.
6 straight shots. Mm-hmm. I had that on the notes. 6 straight shots to put Gruetzemacher out.
Yeah, he just
It was really nice.
as long as he can stay focused to the point where he can get going, man, he is the momentum that he carries with his striking is crazy once he builds that momentum because he's so accurate, So and he just
again,
finds
the speed,
holes.
man.
Yeah, he
The
just finds
speed.
holes.
He's
But
a
yeah.
physical specimen, Usually when you see somebody that bulked up, you don't see that type of speed coming out of him,
You see
Yeah, there's a
explosiveness.
couple freaks of nature like that, but
Yeah, you see explosiveness,
Exactly.
but the speed across a 6-punch combo normally isn't really there. And then, or if it is there, they'll step back
and
take a
they
deep
all
breath.
connected.
Yeah,
They all
did.
connected.
Yeah, they did.
That was rough, man.
Caveman
All right, so
took a clubbing.
I see what you did there. Greene versus Moisés, man. So I had to watch this one because I know that this is this is a fight that a lot of folks were unsure about the decision, right? So when I watched this one, I watched it without sound right away
Yeah,
because I didn't want to be influenced by anything, right? So Moisés looked pretty sharp first round. I think he had some solid strikes in there. I think he had the more significant strike of the round as well. Had the takedown. So I edged the first round to Moisés. How did you have that first round?
I had it for Bobby Greene because I thought Bobby Greene was the aggressor. He landed more volume. He did get taken down, but as soon as he got taken down, he threatened with a submission attempt off his back, swept him, and then threatened a submission attempt on the stand-up. So I was like, okay, cool, you got one takedown. Now I got a reversal and 2 submission attempts. For me, that outweighs the takedown, in my opinion. Especially since he swept him within like 15 seconds of getting taken down.
Without listening to like the impact of the shots, to me it just seemed like some of the more significant strikes were landed by Moisés. I'll go through and rewatch it again, maybe with sound this time, but man, I just barely edged it out to Moisés.
Well, because for me, the first round, significant strikes, I think Moisés landed the heavier shots, but I think Bobby Greene was much more varied. Moisés came out hard, especially in the first minute of that round. He was landing these heavy, heavy kicks, made Bobby Greene switch stances. But after that, I think Bobby Greene just got rolling because if you look at it, let's see, 26 significant strikes for Bobby Greene, 13 for Thiago Moisés in the first round. And I think for this one judge gave the first round to Bobby, 2 judges gave it to Moisés. So the judges agree with you.
Okay. I should probably take a look at the cards to see how off I am or...
No, I mean...
But again, even when
it doesn't matter.
when I take a look at the judges' cards too,
Yeah.
like when we talk about some of these judges, I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Well,
but
so-
the second round, who did you give the second round to?
I thought the second round was a very clear Bobby Greene round. I think that was the clearest round of the fight.
I agree. And for me, it was... I felt like after he threatened with the ankle lock there, there was a lot of rope and dope.
He
Right,
took a lot of
from
time. I think
Moisés.
he gassed going for the leg, so he just took the rest of the round off.
And, he was just up against the cage, and it seemed like he was just trying to get some more energy. Bobby Greene was coming at him with some body shots, though, during that time. So I figured, even though he's trying to regain some energy, he might be losing a little bit of it, too, just from taking those shots to the liver.
Because those sap you. Well, how about this? One judge gave Moisés that second round, which I don't understand how, because it was Bobby's takedown. That trip that he landed was so sick up against the cage. So he got a takedown. Really, the only thing Moisés did that round was threaten with the leg lock. It was other than that, it was all Bobby for me. But yeah, one judge gave him one judge.
I feel like the
gave that
last
round to
minute
Moisés.
of the round, I feel like the last minute of the round, Moisés started turning it on a little bit more. But I
Yeah.
still think there's just so much done by Greene that round
Yeah.
that I wasn't able to give it to Moisés at that point.
Yeah, and if you look at the stats, and this is just me looking at the stats, I normally actually don't even really agree with some of the stats because they don't paint the whole picture. But in this specific round, 29-14 for significant strikes, 29 for Bobby, 14 for Thiago, 33 total strikes for Bobby, though, and a takedown. So he doubled him up on strikes and took him down. For me, that's such a clear round for Bobby, you know?
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, we might go back to what is a significant strike.
yeah,
You know, how
100%.
much do we pay attention to the CompuBox or the CompuStrike numbers, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
Third round. So I put down third round in my eyes. Another round where when it comes to significant strikes, from what I was watching, it was pretty damn close.
Yeah.
And I edged it out to Moisés just for the amount of top control time. I don't feel like he did too much while he was in top control.
I think Bobby going for that Kimura up against the cage cost him the round because he again doubled him up on strikes in that round, but the top control and going for that Kimura he lost that round in my opinion. But and Moisés
I think if
was
he would have
landing
kept it
hard
standing,
shots.
he would have won 2-1 if he would have kept it standing. I feel like.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if he kept it standing, I thought it would have been 30-27 because, man, I know this doesn't count at all, but total strikes for the fight, like, obviously you score it round by round, but both had 2 takedowns. They only credited, and this is why stats don't tell the whole story, they only credited 1 submission attempt for Moisés with the leg locks. They didn't count the guillotine for Bobby. They didn't count the 2 Kimuras for Bobby. Both of those were submission attempts, but he's got a 0. They did give
and when
him
you say they didn't credit him, are you talking about the UFC? Or
the actual
Nevada
the CompuStrike
State Commission?
stats or whatever the fuck. I don't know.
Okay.
The judges don't actually tally those, but I'm just going off the stats here. But they did credit him with the reversal. But the total strikes, Bobby Greene 94, Thiago Moisés 43. So, and not just that, but total strikes attempted, Bobby Greene had 187, Moisés had 120. So not only did he land more than double, he also landed at he also threw more just for more like volume and output, and had a 48% significant strike landed, and Moisés had 35%. And clearly that doesn't really matter because that's overall the whole fight. But he doubled him up on strikes in every round. You know?
Yeah. So, I edged the third round out to Moisés as well. So I gave it 2-1 to Moisés. But I thought this was
not a
really
robbery.
close fight.
Yeah, I'm not going to say it's
I
a
don't
robbery.
think it is.
Yeah, I'm surprised that one of the judges gave Moisés that second round. That's crazy to me. I thought that was a clear Bobby Greene round because I mean Moisés, other than the submission attempt, after that he just took the whole rest of the round off. Like I don't know how that, like when his back is just against the cage and Bobby's just landing pot shots to his body and to the head, like how are we and those like stomping kicks to the knee. I don't know how any judge could give that second round to Moisés, but it is what it is. It sucks because he would have set a record if he won that fight, but oh well. That's how it goes.
Yeah. Whose record was he trying to for the most wins in a specific time span, right?
Yeah, it would have been the fastest fighter to get 4 wins. So
got it. Yeah, I like Bobby Greene too.
Yeah, he wore a little damage too. I think that also swayed the judges a little bit.
He had a bloody face.
Yeah,
that cut above
he had a cut
the brow
here and then one here, and that's not a good look. So it sucks.
It's not.
Yeah, it sucks to see.
Maybe on Halloween it is, but not while you're fighting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm a little salty about that one though.
Yeah, I could tell when you were texting me, and again, that's when I had to turn my AirPods off.
Yeah.
And turn the fights off. I was right with you up until like I said, that submission attempt.
Yeah.
But when you text me, And you're like, dude, how did you score it? I was like, oh, here we go. There's something going on about this fight. So that's why going into this one, before I watch it, I was like, let me turn the sound off real quick.
Yeah. Let me ask you.
Watch it just like that.
Let me ask you this though. In a vacuum, and I'm not trying to say like my opinion's better than yours here, right? I just want to actually just know like what like because everybody scores things, weighs things differently, right? Should I say so? I take you down, right? And then you do threaten with a submission off the takedown. Use that to sweep me. Pretty close after. Moisés had in that first round after the takedown had 16 seconds of top control. So he took him down, and then after 16 seconds, Bobby sweeps him, controls him for 23 seconds, has him on there for longer, right? But okay, in a vacuum now, I take you down. You threaten a submission off of it, whether it's a guillotine off the takedown or a Kimura or whatever it is, right? You use that to sweep me within 15 seconds. And then from the top, go for a submission that now I'm able to use to create space and stand up. Who wins that exchange? Does the takedown count?
Bobby Greene wins that exchange, but when you're taking a look at... So the way I look at this is like, who's judging and what do they score, right? So when I'm trying to figure out like who's going to win this round, I'm not trying to say like for my scorecard specifically, but I'm trying to think of these judges that are judging this fight, and I'm trying to think at the end of this match who's going to get their hand raised based off of the judges. Then I figured based off the takedown, they're going to score the takedown higher and take that more into consideration than the actual reversal after that. So that's why I thought the takedown's going to have a larger impact on the judge's eyes.
Yeah. So, but I mean, but you specifically, like if you were a judge watching the fight, how would you score that? You'd score.
Then I would say the Greene reversal. With the more control on top would probably be the person that has the advantage on that specific grappling exchange.
Yeah, I think so too. Because I mean, man, takedowns are impressive and they're hard to get, but sweeps are really hard to get.
Yeah,
it's really hard to sweep
man.
Somebody.
But the thing that I think about too is who we know that, right? But how many of these judges that are scoring these fights have been in like hard jiu-jitsu rounds, have been on their back in half guard trying to sweep somebody, have been on their back in half guard and threatening with a Kimura, and I don't think very many judges can say that they have.
Yeah, that's what's so cool about California Athletic Commission is just to be a ref, you have to be at least a purple belt in jiu-jitsu, and then and I think you have to ref before you become a judge. So by default, if you're a judge in California, you have to at least be a purple belt, and you're not going to get to purple belt without those struggles, you know. Man, I wish Nevada. Clearly, Nevada doesn't have that because there's no way Sal D'Amato has a purple belt.
Or Adelaide Bird.
Yeah, there's no way Adelaide Bird's out here sweeping people and choking them out.
Well, you never know, dude. She might be hardcore in the streets. You know what I mean? But
rolling in her Lamborghini after throwing fights.
After the Canelo fight, for sure, she's rolling in a Lamborghini. Yeah. But again, looking back at this and thinking about the judges and the requirements for somebody to be a judge, you know, again, we've covered it before. There's something that's way off with the system. But again, when I'm looking at these fights, I'm trying to view it from their lens.
Yeah, I know exactly.
When I'm thinking about like who's going to end up winning this fight, right? Like who's judging this? It'd be awesome if you and I ended up judging, because 100% Greene had the better of that exchange.
Yeah, and then I wonder if we even. It's scary to even go out there. It's like the unknown, but. What do you think about ditching the round by round scoring?
And just who won the fight?
Yeah, it's hard to judge like that though, because it's so much easier. And I think that's why it's scary to leave the round by round, because when it's round by round, the judges have it easy. He won that round. He lost that one. 29-28. You know, like it's easy.
Yeah, if that were the case, then Chael Sonnen would have beat Anderson Silva the first time, because that rules confusion. He thought that if he tapped, he was just going to lose that round.
Yeah, but
he didn't know that he was going to lose the entire fight, so he would have not tapped at that point.
Yeah, but then he would have been disqualified and it would have been overturned because he tested positive.
More juice than Jamba, as he says.
That post-fight drug test got him.
Dude, seriously, one of the funniest interviews I've seen when they asked Chael Sonnen about that, he's like, it was a simple misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And he looks at Uriah Faber and Tom Cruise like, you guys should take a note of that.
Yeah.
Don't tap because it's going to end the fight. It's not going to end that round.
It's so stupid.
All right, man. So next one, Holland versus Ontiveros. Dude, it seemed like there was a huge size difference in this one.
Yeah, and hopefully Ontiveros is okay. They said that he's okay, but
that was scary.
Usually okay isn't a medical term. Something happened.
Obviously, you haven't met my doctor as well. Because
you're okay.
Yeah.
Where's my next patient?
You're good.
Get out of my office.
No, yeah. Man, with Ontiveros walking out, you know, tears running down his face. You could see super emotional coming in.
Yeah.
He says hi to his mom when the camera, you know, moves over to him, and he's like, "Hi, Mom," and I'm just like, "Oh no, dude!
Yeah,
get your mind in the right space." And you look across the octagon, and there's this killer, this fucking killer, Holland, pacing back and forth. Seemed like he was rapping, mean mugging on Ontiveros, and I was like, "Oh, dude, this poor kid, he's about to get killed right now." Sacrificial lamb.
Well, he took the fight on short notice.
He did, and on a different weight class.
Yeah, and I mean clearly.
Yeah, so. Ugh.
Man, that was just. It was just. Fuck, dude. That was just one of those times where you just watch it and you're like, this kind of stuff shouldn't be happening in the UFC. Because I get it. The guy signed the contract. He jumped in there, took advantage, wanted to take advantage of an opportunity. But as soon as Holland put his hands on him, it was like, this shouldn't be happening right now. I don't want to watch what comes next.
Yeah, and you could see in the beginning he landed a nice right on Holland because Holland was getting a little wild there.
Yeah,
you see Holland stand up and he was like, "Shit."
Yeah,
he knew he got caught when he shouldn't have got caught, and then after that, the tides turned really quickly.
Well, that's what happens when he's like, "Oh, I got to take this seriously," all of a sudden, and that's fine.
Yeah,
you know, that's
like,
fine.
"Oh, he hit me."
Yeah,
he actually hit me.
Yeah,
and taking a look at the top 15 right now for the middleweight division, and Holland, I think, is a top 15 talent. But it's, I think, cases like this and situations like this where either his fighter gets injured, the fighter gets COVID, or something happens to where these fighters are taking these fights last minute, last second notice, that's keeping Holland away from breaking into the top 15 because you do have people that are saying, look at the talent that he's been facing.
Well, yeah. The difference with him though is it's the same. It's because he was filling in short notice to fight a guy, and then that guy pulled out. So that's how that whole thing shook out. But he keeps taking these short notice fights, and it's preventing him from breaking into the top 15 right now. But at the same time, he's becoming someone to look forward to for a lot of people during this time. Like, he's really taken advantage of the lack of fighters who are fighting right now, and also the it seems like there's a lot of pullouts and injuries and people testing positive, all this stuff. So he's really
and he just raises his hand and says, "Put me in, coach."
And what that does is it just keeps him fresh, just like Bobby Greene. I've been a Bobby Greene fan for years and years and years. Now all of a sudden people are talking about him. Same thing with Kevin Holland, right? So he's not getting the rankings that he's probably deserves, but he will. Like, as soon as things kind of even out again, he's signing tougher fights. You know he's going to start get these big names. And yeah, people will look at like, oh, the resume, right, of these guys that he's beaten. But the caveat is always, it was a short notice fight. He stepped in. That's all it is.
Yeah.
You know?
And props to him for doing that, man. You know, he's cashing in 2020. That's his fourth victory.
Yeah.
In 2020, which is awesome. He's gotten a lot of performance bonuses during that time as well, which means more sneakers for my boy because he's a huge sneakerhead, which is good for him. And I liked at the end of the fight, though, where he has this big back and forth with Izzy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A lot of shit talking going back and forth. And I take a look at my boy Holland. I take a look at Izzy. And if there's anything that they could do well outside of the octagon, it's talk shit.
Yeah.
So that's a battle I would like to see even outside the octagon. Give me one of those little Twitter battles and see who wins that one. A Twitter scuffle.
Yeah.
But good for Holland, man.
Good for Holland. Just
now,
get another
but
win.
The question is, who's next for him?
Who fucking knows, man? I mean, he's got to jump into the top 15 eventually. And if you're looking
I'm taking a look at this right now. Who do you think about Vettori? How do you think about him?
I like Vettori. He's good. That's a big test for Holland. Obviously, Holland fought Thiago Santos, so he's been in there with top people. That's a good fight. I'd like to see him fight Brad Tavares. Would be a fun one too. I would say Vettori or Tavares would be a good fight for him. And then eventually,
hopefully we see some. I wouldn't be surprised if we see him before the end of the year again.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I would like to see him fight eventually. This can't happen next, but I would really like to see him fight Kelvin Gastelum. That'd be stylistically be such a fun fight.
That would. I would love to see that one too. He'll get there.
Yeah, Holland
for
just
sure
needs to, and I'm sure he will once he gets to these more top tier fighters. He just needs to kind of settle a little bit. He's a little squirrely right now, and tougher guys will take advantage of stuff like that a little bit, I think. He's out of position. Every once in a while, he comes out of position in a compromising spot.
We saw it against Ontiveros to start off the fight. Out of position with his looping shots, right?
Mm-hmm. So it happens, and tougher guys will capitalize on that. So, but I also think he's doing that because he kind of knows the competition that he's been facing lately. And I'm not going to knock, obviously Buckley is legit. And he looked really good. The dentist? Yeah. But I think he will kind of refine his game a little bit when he is in there with more, someone he sees as more a threat, probably. I'm excited. Obviously, I'm excited anytime he fights.
Okay.
Glad he keeps winning.
So, next one is Mitchell versus Fili. This is my story of the fight.
Yeah, it's not mine, but
for Mitchell.
Mitchell, man, I was surprised you picked Fili.
Yeah, so man, the reason I picked Fili, by the way, I started off 4-4 and 5 for 5 or something like that on my parlay, and I was like, things are looking good, and then shit went downhill real quick.
Yeah.
Real quick.
Wait, we skipped.
Right. Oh wait, we skipped Greene versus Hardy.
Yeah.
Okay, so the one thing I will say about this fight is I have to start taking Hardy seriously. I have to start considering him a UFC fighter because I haven't this entire time.
Yeah, same.
I'm just being honest.
Yeah, same.
With him being a Cowboy for a couple years.
Yeah.
Me being a huge Cowboys fan, I enjoyed watching him as a defensive end. Extremely explosive.
Yeah, real stand-up citizen.
Then all this stuff started coming out about him and choke slamming his girlfriend onto a pile of guns and all this stuff. So ever since that happened, I just never fucked with him, man. I was just like, dude, get that guy out. He is what he is, whatever. He's just a shitbox.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorite phrases now, by the way.
I know.
And so him coming into the UFC, I was like, man, can't wait to see this guy get his ass kicked. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And then he wins. He has these controversial things going on with the illegal knees, the inhaler, now the eye gouging on this one, which to me looked intentional.
Yeah.
And maybe I'm biased here because I don't like Hardy, but you see him putting his hand over Greene's face, and you see his fingers digging in to the eyeball. And right away I thought, what a piece of shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm glad that Herb Dean, my boy Herb Dean, saw that shit right away, called it out multiple times, gets down to that same level to make sure that the eye gouging stopped. And I think once that round ended, you hear the next round starting off with Hardy being told by Herb Dean that he's going to take a point. It looks like intentional eye gouging. And that shit's not going to fly. So good for Herb Dean, but he got another TKO, man.
Yep.
Another TKO added to his resume.
When he dropped him the first, I was like, man, he hits so hard, dude. It's just and what sucks is the UFC always throws these guys who have so much potential into the wolves, and it ends up killing confidence, and it stifles it breaks them real quick, right? And they have to build back up, all this stuff. And finally, they build this guy up correctly, and it's fucking Greg Hardy.
And it's Hardy.
Like, because it's one of those times, and this has happened before, where I really don't like a guy, and I would very much like to see them get exposed and lose. But then by the time they face a tough opponent that can do that, they're
seasoned.
They're seasoned enough. They've trained enough. Now they're a fighter, and it sucks because Volkov humbled his ass. When they first gave him Volkov, I was like, here it comes, because Volkov is legit, But Maurice Greene,
but he wasn't embarrassed.
No, he wasn't.
He held his own.
Yeah, I mean, he lost clearly, but yeah, he didn't get out. He didn't get put to sleep. He didn't get.
For me, the moral loss went to Volkov, I think.
Yeah, because he didn't finish him or anything.
Because he didn't finish him.
Yeah.
But again, Hardy's been putting in work, man. You could see the work, and for me, the most impressive part of the fight was not the TKO, but there was a scramble where Hardy's caught in like an omoplata position, and you see him spin out of it and end up on top control.
Yeah.
And and that was the part where I was like, shit, I might have to start considering this guy a legitimate fighter.
Yeah, no, he is now. Because that's his biggest win.
You know who I want to see him fight next? Aspinall.
I want to see him fight Ngannou. I would love to see Greg Hardy fight Ngannou.
Oh, dude. Talk about a sacrificial lamb. But no, I was thinking about Aspinall, right?
Yeah.
Aspinall's not ranked yet.
That's a good pick.
He's looking to get another bigger name. And while Hardy, I wouldn't say is top 10 material, it gives Aspinall, I think, that bigger name that he might be looking for just to help push him closer to the top 15, top 10 there.
Yeah.
So
he's going to be in the top 10
that
soon.
would be he will. And dude, just from the time he walks out, that smuck look on his face, the fact that he named himself the Prince of War. You don't give yourself a nickname, especially when it's the Prince of War. Get out of here.
As he's using his inhaler in between rounds.
The Prince of War. Yeah. Oh my God.
Coming from someone who literally has one right here.
But you don't call yourself the Prince of War or the Prince of Podcasts. Then take an inhaler shot in between, every segment.
Yeah.
But Rashad Evans now in his corner, right? So, again, he's with legitimate teams. He was with American Top Team.
No, it shows.
Working with Rashad Evans now. So, and you see the work coming in. So
yeah, well, you take a guy who is disciplined enough to make it to the NFL, and the amount of training. Everybody talks about like that.
And the athleticism.
Well, yeah, everybody talks about the athleticism. But even if you remove that, just the discipline to get good at a very specific role on a team, to the point where you're one of the best in the world. If he applies that same work ethic, at first I thought when he first started, I was like, this is a crossover athlete who thinks what he's done in the past already is good enough for him to be good at this. And at first he was just running through people with zero technique. And that's what I think he was basing it off of. But now, and I was like, if he applies that same work ethic and discipline to getting good at football, to actually taking fighting seriously, because I think the ego of being a top tier NFL player, you think that's the best. Like when you're in that position, you're like, yeah, I'm the best at. Like my sport's the hardest sport. Not
only making it to the NFL, but being one of the best in your position.
Yeah.
In the NFL.
Mm-hmm. But also, I think that ego thing, you start to think like, my sport's the hardest sport. I'm the best at my sport. I can do any sport. and you're looking at fighting, and you're like, these are a bunch of B-list athletes who weren't good enough for this, so they chose fighting. And I think that's what his mindset coming in was. And I was like, all right, cool, dude, you're gonna learn real quick how much actually goes into this. But then before that could happen, I started noticing, oh, he is applying the discipline and the work ethic to get good at this, and he is taking it seriously. So, yeah.
And you started seeing, too, with his cardio, where in the first few fights in the UFC, after the first round, when he would, when he would put out those explosive combinations, trying to get him out early, and when he wasn't able to, you saw that adrenaline dump go, and, you know, he would start gassing really early. It's cardio seems to be getting better, and I think he's starting to understand that there's a difference.
Well,
right?
I think he's starting to understand as it gets tougher opponents. One big flurry is not going to be
inhaler
enough.
time.
Yeah, one big flurry is not going to be enough. You know.
Yeah.
And I think that's the realization of, oh, I can't just get by on my brute strength and athleticism. Now I have to start taking this kind of seriously. Give him a Ghana.
Give him a Ghana, why not? All right, so we'll move on here.
If he were Darren Till, they would have.
Darren Till, man. Yeah, true. All right, so Mitchell versus Touchy Fili again.
Yeah.
I had my parlay going into this. I was doing really well. And then shit hit the fan with the Greene fight, and it just started unraveling.
Yeah.
You know, and the reason that I went with Fili over Mitchell more than anything was because I felt like this is Mitchell's biggest test thus far.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
Nothing against Mitchell. But I thought that this was a case where Mitchell, excellent grappler, great jiu-jitsu practitioner. We've seen that already. Fili, with the boys at Team Alpha Male, you know the boys over there can grapple. Danny Castillo, his coach.
Yeah.
Uriah Faber. Like, that's what they're really good at. So I figured that might be able to kind of help Fili stay on his feet a little more and be able to piece him up here and there, you know, with his striking and the experience.
Yeah,
Fili's experience, too.
And Fili's last fight against Jourdain, he looked really good. He looked like he kind of was finally starting to really put everything together. Because before, he'd win a couple fights, lose one, win a couple fights, lose two. And then it was kind of a back and forth. And he really looked like he put it together his last fight. And he looked really good in this fight. He looked really good.
But Mitchell, man, it's a case of a fighter where we know what a fighter's going to do. Fili knew exactly what Mitchell was going to do, and he couldn't stop it, man.
Yeah.
I love watching Bryce Mitchell. After that commercial he had, too.
I know.
Oh, my God. Thank you for sharing that with me, because that's one of the best commercials. The car sales commercial that I've ever seen.
Yeah. How about this fight? Only one judge gave the second round to Fili. There was... two judges gave all 3 rounds to Mitchell, where I thought round 2 was a very clear round for Fili. I thought it was...
Was it the same judges as the Greene fight? Well, I don't know. We don't have to look that up right now. I'll look it up later.
Sal D'Amato
gave
the second round to Mitchell.
Sal D'Amato strikes again.
Yeah. This was one of those fights where it was like, first round, clearly Mitchell. Second round, clearly Fili. Who's got it in the third? And... man, to start the third, what really impressed me was Fili was trying to throw that lead hook to start the round. He'd lunge in, try to throw it. Mitchell would pull back, counter with the right. He was just landing that pull count. It was like left hook, pull counter, left hook, pull counter, left hook, like 4 times to start the round. And then Fili took a step back and was like, well, fuck, I'm not throwing that again. Because it was just like, oh, you're just going to keep throwing that? I'll just keep pull countering you. It was impressive. It was impressive for him.
I thought it was such a good fight, fun fight.
Especially considering
2 young prospects.
Broke his hand in the first round.
Who did?
Mitchell
broke his hand in the first round.
Yeah.
What a savage, man.
Yeah.
What a savage. So over 3 minutes of top control in the first round. Right. What I did put down here for the second round was Fili came out more cautious of the takedown.
Yeah.
You see Mitchell starting to land a couple shots in the beginning of the round because you could tell Fili was just worried about the level change from Mitchell.
Yeah.
But then after that, he started getting more comfortable after stuffing a couple of those takedowns, and he really started piecing Mitchell up.
Yeah, and I think
the
I think also not just the stuffing the takedowns, but realizing and I saw a bunch of people criticizing Mitchell. I've never seen that little of a threat from full mount. And it's like, dude, full mount isn't what it used to be. It used to be you get full mount, fight's over. Nowadays, especially at their weight class, full mount, you're going to get bucked off. You know?
Dude, and that's a great call because on my notes is why I put down Fili was so explosive in getting out of some of these full mount positions, getting out of some of these half guard positions. He showed a lot of strength, man. There was
really
this one time where he was in half guard, right, and he just kind of shrimps out and just uses brute strength to stand back up while he still had an underhook on Mitchell.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's talked about he's just recently started taking strength and conditioning seriously. He was always just training fighting, and now he's actually starting to like put on muscle mass and stuff like that. And I think it showed because, and I think that's also what gave him confidence to let the hands go, was realizing when it goes to the ground. Because I think going into this, he's probably like, I can handle my own on the ground. But in the back of his mind, it's don't let it go to the ground because this guy will put you in a twister. But then once he kind of survived the sharky waters of the ground, he was like, I'm down there. It's nothing like it's not anything I haven't seen before.
And that's what I'm saying. The team that he's trained with, think about how long this guy's been training.
Yeah.
Specifically with Team Alpha Male. While he was at Team Alpha Male, right, you have Dillashaw going through there, Danny Castillo going through there, Chad Mendes going through there, Uriah Faber going through there. What's that? Holsworth?
Yeah.
Going through there. That guy was a beast before he got hurt too, right? People sleep on him and they forget about him. But when you think about the level of talent when it comes to just the grappling department, jiu-jitsu, wrestling, and Team Alpha Male, that if I were this kid, I'd have a ton of confidence going into that too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So, hey,
interesting
props
to see
to the way for Theo Vaughn. Got a shout out from from your boy there from Bisbing.
Yeah.
It was so funny.
I'm interested to see what happens next with Bryce Mitchell, because now now it's you fought in the co-main event against a veteran fighter, and you won. So now if you're looking ahead of him, Edson Barbosa, Dan Ige, Shane Burgos, Sadiq Youssef, Arnold Allen.
Dude.
All of those
Ryan
are good fights.
Hall.
Not going to happen.
Why not?
It's not going to happen. I would love to see it, but it's not going to happen.
How awesome would that be?
I know. I would love to see it.
Oh my god! Because I've taken a look at some of these freaking monsters, man. Yeah. Absolute monsters.
I think
that'd be like the only fight I could look at that makes sense for Mitchell.
I think Ryan Hall tools him. I think he.
You think so?
I think so, because I think Mitchell has enough confidence in his ground game that he would want to go to the ground against Hall. Bad idea. People don't realize, because Ryan Hall he just hasn't been fighting. You just don't go to the ground with him. He's excellent in a facet on the ground that most people still don't even know about. It's really big in the jiu-jitsu world, but in the MMA world it hasn't gotten there yet. But Ryan Hall brings it, and I think people don't realize it's completely different. It's almost like it's almost a different style of jiu-jitsu. Like there's the Japanese jiu-jitsu, right, where it started, then there's the Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and now there's this. And I don't think people...
The 50-50 jiu-jitsu, he calls it?
Yeah, from the 50-50 position. The Danaher Death Squad, just overwhelming everybody in jiu-jitsu competitions. If he actually gets fights, we're going to see it, because it's different. And I think Mitchell is going to go down there and he's just going to get tooled up. I would love to see it, though.
You know, I would love to see that too, but you're right. There's a bunch of monsters right in front of Bryce Mitchell. Again, just looking at Edson Barbosa, man. Even if you were to just go 14 versus 15, I still think Edson Barbosa pieces Bryce Mitchell up.
Yeah, he does. I would like to see him jump Barbosa and fight Ige. I want to see that fight. I think Ige beats... it's a tough road for Mitchell. It is. Dude,
I'm looking at this right now, and it's just so stacked.
To get to the top 5 in featherweight, you have to be a murderer. You have to be an absolute murderer.
You know what? Give him Francis Ngannou. So,
Yeah.
look, I'm taking a look at the stats at the end of the day here. Bryce Mitchell, 7 takedowns, 9 minutes and 34 seconds of ground control time.
Yeah.
5th straight victory, right? Going into this fight, Fili had only been taken down 4 times in his UFC career.
Damn.
He was taken down 7 times.
Yeah.
Against Mitchell. Again, that's why you would have another level of confidence if you're touchy-feely going into this when it comes to your wrestling.
Yeah.
And then the only other thing I have on there is just the interaction at the very end between Fili and Mitchell was fantastic. Fili says, hey, I didn't call you out because I was talking shit. I really like you. That's why I wanted to fight you.
Yeah.
And he said something where, the division's filled with a bunch of fake, and they bleeped something out. I don't know what he said. But he's like, you're a real one. You know what I mean? So I saw that at the end. And again, my story of the fight for me was Mitchell's performance, the fact that we have another fighter where you know exactly what he's going to do, and still it can't be stopped.
Yeah.
So I'm uber excited about just Mitchell. I wasn't buying into the hype too much. Like I said, I still picked Fili going into this fight. That and he was an underdog. So for my parlay, you don't want to pick the favorites all the single time, or else that payout isn't very huge.
Yeah.
But I thought if there was any underdog in this fight that might have a solid shot, it was probably Fili.
That's a good line of thinking. Yeah. That just reminded me. I just want to go back to the Bobby Greene fight really quick. We don't have to dwell on it. But if you watched it without audio, he said to his corner at the end of the second round, I'm seeing triple. And still went out there in that third round.
Oh, there was a part where he got punched, and I saw him do this and look over to the ref.
Yeah.
Was he...
No, it was a punch. It was a punch.
It was a punch? Okay.
Yeah. I think he thought he got pushed.
It looked like a punch, because it was a solid right.
Yeah, it was a punch. The knuckle just right in the soft spot.
When that happens. Because I did see that again. God, was it the Hall fight?
Yep.
Versus Silva? Where, again, Hall gets punched, and he looks at the ref and says he got poked in the eye.
But it was a punch.
It was a punch. So that would have been 2 times then in this card where we see that happen.
Fighters got to stop calling timeout.
Exactly. Fighters have to let the judges, or the refs, not the judges.
Yeah.
Let the refs do their job. And I think it was Herb Dean, right, for that last one.
I think so, yeah. Pretty sure.
And Herb Dean tends to err on the side of caution, I've noticed. When a fighter does complain about the eye poke, he tends to give that fighter a timeout, but...
He errs on the side of caution on anything but stoppages.
Hey, dude, don't do him dirty like that. He's not Yamasaki, you know what I mean?
No, I just mean people cheating. He just doesn't take points away.
I see what you're saying.
Dude, rewatch that.
Silva versus Hall.
Yeah.
Silva versus Hall, man.
This is my story of the fight.
Man. I thought it would be. Yeah. So cover your story of the fight.
Santos Silva, it's Santos Silva, when he broke his leg, I cried. Actual tears came out of my eyes when he broke his leg. Silva was just, when I first got into the sport, or not even when I first got into the sport, but Chris Lieben's always been one of my favorite fighters, right? Always, forever. And when Anderson came in and just beat him like he did, it was like he killed like a superhero for me, because Chris Lieben was someone that I was just invested in, and he was just this guy that will just take shots, keep coming forward, and then put you out with one. Like, he'll eat your 10 shots and just touch you and you're dead. So it was just like, this guy is he's like a titan, right? And then Silva comes in and just runs straight through him, and then just runs through everybody. And back then it was just so clear that he was just so ahead of everybody else. Doesn't matter what weight division, just so ahead of everybody. Like Bisping said in the commentary, he's the master of 8 limbs. And it just, the fact that he's the spider, and the 8 limbs is both hands, the kicks, knees, elbows, right? And it's just, he fucking, like when he went through Rich Franklin was seen as like one of the toughest guys in the sport, and he just broke him. So seeing him be able to do all this stuff, going up with the weight class, and just absolutely tooling Stephan Bonner, and just doing whatever he wanted to everybody. It's like they weren't even fighters. Like he wasn't even fighting fighters.
I remember the fight against Forrest.
Dude, when
You
he
know,
fought, I mean, come on. And when he fought Yushin Okami, same thing. Just the Matrix. Like, you see him do stuff that I had never seen before. The anchor punch. He threw the anchor punch like Ali. Like, he just throws it from the hip as he steps back, throws it, pops you, and then you just fall straight across the cage. He did it to Okami. He did it to Forrest Griffin. Like, he was just so good. And he just looks like he's just not doing anything, and then he just explode with like this fierceness. Like you see it in his face. Like at first he's all lackadaisical, like it's like he's out to lunch, and then all of a sudden he throws a spinning back kick, and you see his face as he turns around, and he looks like angry, and you're like, oh fuck. He would just choose when to go, you know. And I think that's something later on in his career that you could tell like he just wasn't choosing to go. Like he was just kind of fooling around in there almost. And he would never have that intensity like he was showing before. And, you know, ever since Weidman beat him the first time, he's never really been the same. People will hate on me and call me a Nick Diaz fan all the time, but I think Nick Diaz won that fight against him on the judges' scorecards. I thought I've gone back and watched that fight. I have no idea how many times. I've gone back and watched just round 1, and then a week later I'll watch round 2, and then 2 days later, I'll watch round 3 and just score those individually. I think Nick wins that fight. But Anderson was just something so special, and he was the first great in the UFC. And I don't mean to discredit people like Randy Couture and all these other guys who were in the early days, but he was the first great. All these guys were tough, and they got through with their toughness and they had skill, obviously, but he was the first complete fighter. If you're going to look at it as like a sport, he was the first like just anomaly skill set. Every sport has
He brought
them.
all the tools.
Yeah,
all the tools.
Every sport has them. You look at like right now we have Mike Trout, right? He's like he hits for power. He doesn't miss. He swings and hits everything. He doesn't chase things out of the strike zone. He's a plus fielder. Oh, and he's fast as fucking steals bases. Doesn't make any sense. And that was Anderson Silva. Just everything he could do. Submits Chael. Fuck, dude. Chael batters him for 5 rounds, and he submits him at the end. Like, and then in the rematch.
Confusion.
And then and then in the rematch, just fucking murders him. Like, just
that
absolutely
chest to the sternum. Oh, the knee to the sternum.
Oh my god! I remember watching that fight,
so
and I was
brutal.
like watching it live. And I'll be honest, I've always been a Silva fan, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't watching his fights to see him lose at a certain point. Because at first it was, I want to see what this guy can do. And then we saw everything he could do. And then it was like, who the fuck's going to beat this guy? And then I was waiting for someone to beat him. I was rooting for Chael in both of those fights. You know, I was rooting for Weidman when he won.
Me too.
I was rooting for Weidman when he won. But that doesn't mean I dislike Silva. You know what I mean? He just played such a big role in the UFC and in fighting. So for him to say that this is probably his retirement fight, right, all this stuff, going in to fight the guy who was touted as the next Anderson Silva, didn't really pan out, right? But you can tell when Izzy fought Anderson, that should have been his retirement fight, in my opinion, because I think Izzy showed him a ton of respect that he didn't need to, but Anderson earns it, because I think if Anderson was a nobody, say Anderson, that was his UFC debut, and he took a fight on short notice to fight Israel, and no one had ever heard of him, Izzy would have steamrolled him. Steamrolled him, but he didn't, and he put on one of my favorite fights in recent years. And I'll be honest, after that fight, when he was hugging Izzy and telling him like it's you now, like he was passing off his persona,
passing the torch.
He was passing it to him, and I cried. Like my eyes are getting watery right now just talking about it, you know. So to see him continue to fight and continue to lose, I think in his last 9 fights he's 1-7 and 1 no contest. It doesn't take away anything right? Because when I think about Anderson Silva, I don't think about him getting knocked out right now. I don't think about Cannonier destroying his leg. I don't think about those fights. I think about Rich Franklin, Chris Lieben, Forrest Griffin, Yushin Okami, Chael Sonnen, all these killers that he went through. So he hasn't tarnished that legacy for me yet. So I hope he does retire. But all of that going into it, that's what creates what is this fight's story going to be? And that's what goes into this fight. So watching this fight, that's what you're going in with. That's your whole mindset is this is his last fight. This is the guy who is a legend killer. This is the guy who is the legend who was like mystifying. People didn't understand what the fuck he was doing. Like he's just standing against the cage doing this and then just pops you. And then all of a sudden you have to take 4 steps back and he starts walking towards you. And it's like, what the fuck, man? What is this guy made of, right? And so the story for me is all of that. And then the fact that he looked pretty fucking good in the first round. And if you look at the record, it doesn't show because, yeah, like I said, 1-7 with 1 no contest. But in those fights, the only thing that's gone is the chin. He just can't take the shots. But everything, he's still fast as fuck. When he went up and fought DC at UFC 200, he got outclassed, right? DC was way too big, too good of a wrestler.
Yeah.
If you think about what was Anderson's kryptonite was pressure wrestlers, Chris Weidman, Chael Sonnen, and now we're gonna give you DC, way bigger, too big for you, and the best wrestler you've ever faced. So clearly, he was gonna get outclassed. But then with 30 seconds left of that fight, he lands that front kick to the body, and almost puts DC away. So the striking, his striking IQ, his when he decides to go, he goes. He's vicious still. His speed is still there. His head movement, yeah, he gets clipped, but his head movement is still there. If his chin was still what it used to be, we would still be looking at Anderson highlights of him viciously knocking people out, dodging punches like crazy, the Wing Chun shit where he's blocking shit before it even gets close to him.
Yeah.
But he just can't take the shots to implement that game anymore. So that first round, he won the first round. I thought he won the second round. And he was winning the third round up until he got dropped at the end of it. So it's like, it's not one of those fighters like Chuck Liddell where, yeah, his chin is gone, but also his skill set is gone. Like Chuck wasn't landing the shots that he used to land. He wasn't moving the way he used to move. Anderson's still doing all that. His head movement's still there. He's still dodging an insane amount of punches. The problem is even back then, when he was dodging all those punches, he'd get clipped still. And then he'd stand there and let you hit him 4 times, and then he'd keep going. The difference now is those shots that do end up landing when he's moving around, they just put him down. They used to just bounce right off him, and he'd keep doing it. And then he dodged 3 more. So I hope he retires because he said, this is probably my last fight. And then he said, at the end of that sentence, in the UFC. I don't like hearing that. I don't like the probably, and I don't like the in the UFC. Because that makes me think he's going to sign somewhere else. And if I'm being honest, if he wants to go into Bellator and start fighting cans, I'm for it. Because what I just said, his skill set is still there. If he's fighting people who don't know, I mean, Uriah Hall is tough. You know, he knocked out Gegard Mousasi. Like, he's a good fighter. And he hasn't had any easy fights in the UFC. The people who have beaten him in these past recent years, Derek Brunson. Actually, I think he beat Brunson, but he lost the fight. But they gave it to Brunson. Cannonier beat him. Cannonier obviously is a monster. He's fighting monsters still. So if he wants to take a step down in competition and just style on these kids, I'm fine with that because he clearly still can. But that's not what's going to happen. If he continues to fight, that's not what's going to happen. He's going to either
I think Dana already came out and said he should have never let him take this fight. That he shouldn't be fighting anymore. So I definitely don't think we're going to see him back in the UFC.
Fuck Dana for even scheduling this fight. Mm-hmm. If Anderson wanted one more, if he wanted one more fight and wanted to fight out his contract and retire, don't give him Uriah Hall.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
The fuck are you doing? And then, I shouldn't have done this. You knew you shouldn't have done this the whole time. This is exactly what you wanted. Fuck off, dude. Building names off of legends past their prime is probably the grossest thing that the UFC does. It bums me out so much.
My eyes got watery as well, and I didn't think they would. Watching Anderson Silva retire, or essentially watching what might be his last fight.
At least retire his UFC career.
Yeah, and again, I think about the stuff like you said that he's done within the UFC, what he's meant to not just the UFC but to the sport in general. You know, and the fact that because of him, there is a lot of fans that are mixed martial arts fans because of him specifically.
Maybe more than anybody, other than Conor, but
maybe,
especially at the time he did it, right?
So, I mean, for me, it's almost like the end of an era. You know, it's officially the end, and it's always tough. But at the same time, watching him fight and get clipped like that, and like you said, those are shots that he would eat for breakfast back in the day. Yeah. And now seeing him go out, and I don't like seeing Herb Dean waving it off at the end. Anderson Silva holding on to Herb Dean's leg for dear life. You know, and Silva, one thing I'll always say about Silva is he's super respectful, right? When you think about a true mixed martial artist, he embodies that. And, you know, even listening to the interviews going into the fight where he's talking about Chael Sonnen, you know, and
he made me.
He's like, Chael Sonnen is a good guy.
Yeah.
He made me, I made him. And, you know, it was a big fight for me, you know, all this other stuff. But he said, I want to talk to Chael. I know he has some kids. I want to talk to him about his family. I want to talk to him about his kids and see how things are going. And I was like, God, this guy, he's making a run at the NMF belt.
Yeah, he really, especially towards the end of his career. Yeah. Towards
the end of his career. You see the respect that Adesanya had for him, you know, the embrace at the end. And he says, you know, he's passing the torch over to Adesanya. You see the embrace with Hall at the end of this fight. And
Hall looked like he was going to throw
genuine, up. Dude, the genuine appreciation, not just the respect, but the appreciation that the fighters have for Silva and what Silva has done for their careers, and you see, it's just a beautiful thing to watch, man.
Hall looked like he was thinking, Dana, look what you made me do. That's what his face was saying.
Are you not entertained? Yeah. You know, like it was just like, super pissed off, dude.
Just like I'm sure he took no. I'm sure he didn't like that at all.
He apologized to him at the end.
Yeah.
He apologized to him at the end. He said, I'm so sorry. You know, and Silva, being a class act, you know, again, congratulated him, told him that he should be a champion. And you hear Mike Bisping saying, you know, it's just everybody respects this guy so much. He said that going into that fight, when they touched gloves, he said, good luck.
Yeah.
He said he never wished another fighter good luck before, but it's just that immense amount of respect he had for Silva.
And you think, Bisping, man, the Anderson versus Bisping fight was, I mean, that was past prime Anderson, but that was a fucking awesome fight.
That was.
I remember I watched it. I watched it on my lunch in the Gilroy Best Buy break room.
Did you?
Yeah, because it was in Brazil, hilarious. So it was midday, and I made sure my lunch was like lining up with the main event. And there's people.
Actually, I think I might have been there with you.
Yeah, I think you were there. Yeah, it was awesome. It was amazing.
With the flying knee straight to his
he was like,
it was
a mouth
controversial.
Guard.
Yeah. Yes, I remember. Yeah, we were there.
Should have been over it.
Not at the fight, but
it should have been a win for Silva. Together. But
because I mean, just what a career, man.
The bell rang. Yeah, the bell rang before I think it was Herb Dean could even stop the fight. So and I mean, Bisping was out cold.
I remember Bisping though, just like fumbling, trying to get his mouthpiece back. Like
he was out. You know that fight should have been over. But then Bisping ends up winning the next round, which is fucking
heart of a champion.
Speaks to how tough Bisping is, man. But this has to be even if a fight leading up to this was the greatest fight I'd ever witnessed. This was still going to be my story of the fight, just because there's every once in a while a fighter comes along who just brings in a ton of casual fans. But for Silva, he brought in a ton of casual fans. But all those fans are all the hardcore fans that exist now. You know, all the people who love the sport. They aren't casuals anymore. They're super hardcore. They know what the fuck they're talking about. They were casuals because of Anderson. You know what I mean?
Yep.
He was the first, I think, superstar that the UFC ever had. You know? I remember when it used to be, How many times have they said, "Oh man, this guy looks like a new young Anderson Silva"? So many times they said about Izzy. They said about John Jones. They said about Uriah Hall. Yeah.
I use that now for Izzy. You know, again, talking to my boy Josh, we're talking about fights, and he's like, Adesanya, who would you compare him to? And I said, well, he's a younger version of Anderson Silva.
Yeah.
You know, he's got that high striking IQ, really knows how to use his length, and he's lanky, you know, where you see him and you're like, this guy's not going to carry a lot of power, but he's got that precision, and when he touches people, they're out.
Just drop,
you know, so...
People still think that Forrest Griffin threw that fight against Anderson because...
Dude, did you see his face afterwards?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and it's not about the biggest shot that lands. It doesn't have to look like some crazy knockout blow. It's the timing, it's the accuracy, it's the speed. It's just...
It's also the accumulation of punches that they've taken. Like, thinking about that Griffith fight, right?
Yeah.
And the accumulation of shots he had taken up until that last right where he moves out of the way, and either Griffith is the best actor I've ever seen, or he was really out. Cause,
I think he broke
just
his arm
looking
in
at
that
his
fight
eyes.
Too.
Dude,
was it his arm or his jaw? I think it might have been his jaw.
Who knows? I don't remember. But that's just again
when John
goes
Jones
to show.
Yeah, when John Jones was coming up, it was wow. This guy's like an Anderson Silva style striker, but with wrestling. And then obviously it changed a little bit, and he became his own fighter. But that was the early talks about John Jones. Was the long, lanky. You have no idea what he's going to throw next. Super explosive, creative, but he had wrestling, and that was like, yeah, man, Anderson, it's absolute legend. You know?
Legend. All right, so this brings me over to Will's wisdom. If you're ready for it.
Yeah, let's do it. Wait,
Need to fix your glasses or anything? Okay. There's always got to be something to prep you for it. You know what I mean? There we go. So, Anderson Silva, we witnessed his last fight, right?
Yeah.
Where does he rank amongst the greatest of all time for you? Because we just finished a conversation of GOAT with Nurmagomedov this last week. So, where does Anderson Silva land for you in that list?
I mean, this is so personal, but for me, it always goes back and forth between GSP and Anderson for different reasons. Because GSP was one of the guys that just kind of went out on top, came back, won a belt, went out on top again. So that in and of itself is just insane. And he was just such a complete fighter. And just one of the first to really understand game planning and implementing game plans, which is such a big deal. But Anderson was just, it's one of those things where you watch him to just be amazed and just watch someone just completely outclass somebody and do things that you couldn't even think about doing. So it's always been GSP and Anderson for me. And right now I'm leaning Anderson. That might just be recency bias, and it's all fresh in my mind, just remembering. I was rewatching old fights of his and stuff. So right now it's Anderson just because, I mean, it's the same reason people go back and watch some of Ali's fights, because you were just like witnessing something that you just had never seen before. And that's something that Anderson did, you know. So right now I'm leaning
then you
Anderson.
ranked Anderson Silva number 1, greatest of all time?
Yeah.
Ooh, over Nurmagomedov, over GSP. Anderson number 1.
Dude, for me, honestly, if I'm including fighters that have tested positive or have had drug test issues, it's Anderson, GSP, John Jones, DC, Khabib. Khabib for me is, I still, obviously, I think very, very highly of him, but those guys just did things that I think weigh a little heavier. And yeah, I don't want to give John the credit because he's like, I'm the number one, this whole spiel he's still talking about Khabib, but you look at the resume of John Jones, it just speaks for itself, you know.
Surprised he hasn't. Oh, maybe I haven't seen it tweeted anything, you know, because there has been GOAT talk since Anderson Silva's fight last night, you know, where he ranks him. I'm surprised he hasn't started tweeting like, "Screw that guy, I'm the GOAT," you know.
Yeah.
But anyways, next one. So Poirier recently posted a video saying that all the months of Justin Gaethje essentially pushing the interim title away was disrespect in a sense. Yeah. So you also have Gaethje that said, no, I don't want to take that seriously because I'm going after the real belt. Who do you agree with in this case? Who do you side with?
Both. Honestly, both. Because when Dustin got it, it was just like such a long time coming type thing. Just like, man, he's been through so many ups and downs, and finally he gets this thing. And he gets it because there's inactive champions, right? Tony got done completely dirty, but Habib fought once a year, was injured, was doing Ramadan, all this stuff, right? So, and you could argue that outside of that, Dustin was the top. I mean, he was the best, right? So I understand what it means to him, and I get why he feels disrespected by it, because it's something that he worked so hard to get and finally got it and feels redeemed from it. I get why he feels disrespect. I don't think Justin means it in a disrespectful way whatsoever. I think Justin was using that as a tool to continue his like strive and his like ambition to get the real belt.
Like self-motivation?
Yeah. I don't think he meant it as a disrespect whatsoever. So I guess I disagree with Dustin thinking it was disrespectful. But I understand why, you know. I get what Justin was doing. You know, it was almost like a character
was
thing
more
too.
like, I think Poirier was more talking in the sense of like Gaethje disrespecting his own hard work. Like the fact that he had put in so much work since he was young to get to that point. And, you know, he was saying it might not be the full title, but it's a piece of it, man. You own a piece of it, and all your hard work got you there.
No, I think Justin thinks that now. And I think he probably already thought that. I think he was just using it as motivation, you know?
Good call.
Yeah.
Good call. So, next one. Dana says Whitaker doesn't want to fight Adesanya. He was convincing Adesanya to fight Whitaker. He spoke to Whitaker about the rematch. Whitaker says he doesn't want it. Can you help me make sense of this, please?
Whitaker has been the champ before. And I don't think he liked being the champion. I think he's talked about how much stress it was, how much it's just so taxing, you know, on your body, on your mind, on everything. And he was talking about how he was like, yeah, I just don't really. He's like, I don't want to get back in there anytime soon. He's like, I think he's having another kid. He wants to celebrate Christmas. I know the UFC said, what do you think about a title shot in March or April? And he was like, I think they said February or March. And he said, yeah, maybe March or April. Like, he's just not itching to get back in there. I mean, he's been the champ before, and I think he wants the fight. I think he would like to be the champ again. I think he wants to get that fight back. But, when Dana says someone doesn't want to fight, I take that with a grain of salt. It's not that Robert doesn't want to fight and he doesn't want to take that fight and challenge Izzy again for the belt. I just think that it's not like he doesn't have the crazy sense of urgency, the hungry, I want to get that belt back, I want to do it as soon as possible, all this stuff, right? He kind of likes to take time off between fights. He's a family man. He has like 5 kids or some shit like that. Like, and man, you think about the wars that he's been through with Yoel, dude. Those 10 rounds with Yoel are just insane. So, it's not that he doesn't want the fight. I think it's just he doesn't have the sense of urgency, and I don't think he needs to be honest. You know, like, I think he also realizes that him versus Izzy will always be there, and it will always be absolutely massive if they do it in Australia or New Zealand. So I just don't think it's a super urgent thing. And it seems crazy, right? You should want to get the belt back as soon as possible. I think he's just, I can't apply my logic to it because I've never been the champ. I never lost the belt. So it doesn't surprise me that he's just, he's talked about he didn't like it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Thank you, Will, for helping me make sense of this.
Yeah.
Because I was confused by it. So, that being said, Blachowicz versus Adesanya for the light heavyweight title next.
Mm-hmm.
Who wins and why?
I think Izzy wins, but I don't think it's going to be an epic fight whatsoever. They're both kind of counter strikers. I think it's going to be a pretty slow fight. I think Izzy's going to be hesitant to get hit by him because he's obviously bigger. It's going to be interesting to see what Izzy looks like at 205 because he's not very large for 185. And what that changes to him and like what that changes in his style or his abilities. But I think he wins. I think he'll probably win a decision against Jan. I don't know what happens after that though. But I don't think it's going to be like the greatest fight of all time.
Yeah.
It'll be fun. I'll watch it, obviously.
Thinking about it, I could see him winning the light heavyweight title, stepping back down to defend his middleweight title, and then the light heavyweight title kind of just being like...
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen.
Up in limbo.
It bums me out because light heavyweight's finally, we keep talking about it, it's finally amazing. Like, man... It's finally amazing because what happens? You think? Let's be honest. Thiago Santos is probably gonna beat Glover Teixeira, and then it's gonna be Izzy versus Thiago. That's a pretty fucking awesome fight, though.
That is. I was just thinking that when you said that.
I was like, Thiago's gonna be too big
John
for
Jones?
him. But then Thiago used
Does
to fight
John Jones
middleweight.
now say, "Hey, he has the light heavyweight title now.
John Jones.
Let me step down again to light heavyweight
Well,
because I want that fight."
That's why it's the ultimate
and
play
it
by
becomes
Izzy.
this massive super fight.
That's why it's the ultimate play by Izzy, because Dana called John's bluff about moving to heavyweight. They stripped his title, and now Izzy comes up. He's gonna take the title, and then what I think would be hilarious is if he's just like, all right, yeah, but I'm a middleweight. I just want to get that belt, and then John's like, all right, I'll come back to light heavyweight, and then the next day Izzy's like, all right, guys, Darren Till,
I relinquished the title.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I can see that happening to him,
I mean,
just like
Izzy's
as
such
an
a troll,
ultimate
dude.
troll to John.
Yeah, yeah, but
I love it,
fuck
man.
John.
I love it.
Why did they make John even relinquish the belt? I mean, it's just so unnecessary. It's just John being difficult and the UFC being like, all right, dude, well, get fucked.
Again, if we would never see him fight again, I'm fine with it. Will's wisdom, dude, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else?
Not really.
Dude, we didn't have a moment of silence. Was there a moment of silence for this card?
Not really, honestly.
No?
No.
All right.
There was fizzled fights. There's 6 fights that fizzled, but
Okay, well, you know what? Moment of silence for the moment of silence. There you go. All right, that's all I got, bro. You got anything else?
no.
No? Well, thanks for listening to the story of the fight, everyone.
Well, no, I'm just thinking because it's. I didn't realize that Santos versus Teixeira is next week.
Ooh.
And that seems just absolutely crazy to me that they're going to talk about booking Izzy before seeing that fight. Like if Santos just absolutely starches Teixeira in the first round, what do we do? You know?
Which I think there's a big probability of that happening.
Yeah.
But, again, I think we see Blachowicz versus Izzy. And I think whoever wins that fight, Blachowicz wins that fight, I think Izzy's going to win that fight. But whoever wins, then we have this Thiago Santos versus the winner of that fight.
Yeah, I think so too. That card is sneaky good.
Oh, I can't wait, man.
Really good card. Damn.
There's no Halloween next week. We're good.
Yeah, nothing getting in the way of
I'll
this.
be watching those fights. All right, man. That's all I got.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks for listening to Story of the Fight for Reals this time. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Story of the Fight. We really appreciate everybody's support. If you don't mind hitting the subscribe button, and when you do subscribe, make sure that you hit the notification button as well. That way you get notified whenever we upload anything new. Don't forget to hit the like button. It goes a long way for us. And leave some comments. We love interacting with everybody.
Yeah, and if you want to stay even more up to date, you can follow us at Story of the Fight on Instagram and Twitter. And you can email us at storyofthefight@gmail.com. Ask questions, give us feedback, critique us. We want to make this better, and input helps us do that.
Thanks for listening to Story of the Fight, everybody.